I'm Bernice Abubeidulansa. The details now. The Ghana Boundary Commission has begun sensitizing residents living in border communities to help protect the pillars and other markings signifying Ghana's territorial sovereignty. Authorities at the commission set up to harmoniously settle matters concerning Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors to avoid an escalation of tension say they are conducting an audit of boundaries throughout the country, starting with land boundaries in the Volta region. National Coordinator of the Commission, Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia, has been explaining to traditional authorities in the area why they should not confront their neighbors in border towns over these land demarcations. Head of our security desk, Gifty Andwapia, has a wrap.
The Ghana Boundary Commission is an organization set up to deal with issues arising from Ghana's boundaries with its neighbors. Although the law governing the organization was passed, operationalization of the commission to deal with boundary issues between Ghana and its neighbors happened at the latter part of last year. Ghana's maritime boundary dispute with Ivory Coast, which started in 2010 and ended up in court, is one of the situations the Commission is hoping to avoid by clearing out the blurred lines, starting with the land boundaries. Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia is the National Coordinator.
We are responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are secured, the pillars are also well placed and they are not disturbed. And for that matter, we are also responsible for ensuring that our land boundaries are not tampered with. Now, one of the important things that we need to understand is that the Boundary Commission has become more operational since the latter part of last year. Now, we want to use this opportunity to advise that all residents should be very proactive so far as identifying some of the issues of disturbances along our boundaries are concerned, especially the security of the boundary pillars, and that the border committees within the various district security councils should be very proactive in identifying some of these challenges. Now, giving us early warning, so far as these challenges are concerned, will help prevent a lot of conflict. We want, as a country, to live amicably with our neighbors. And as part of our mandate, as I mentioned earlier on, it is our responsibility to ensure that we really discuss with our neighbors or our counterparts from the opposite side of our country if there are issues. And I can assure you that currently we have a very good relation with the Boundary Commission of Togo. So when there are issues, we are jointly going to resolve these issues at our boundary. We are not going to resolve it independently. Coming here, they are aware that we're coming here. We've told them that we're coming here. They've told all their security personnel along the borders that we are coming to do an exercise here. They should give us all the cooperation. We are in constant touch with them. And that is the way we want to do our work. Going forward, we want to ensure that there will never be a dispute coming out of boundary pillars between Ghana and its neighbors. And that is why that is the main object of the Ghana Boundary Commission. And we're going to ensure that that is applied to the latter.
For about 2 days, his men have been on the ground, along with Immigration and National Investigation Bureau officers, gathering data that will guide the Commission's engagement with its Togolese counterparts. Today, they have just finished briefing him and are taking us to review their findings on the ground. This is the gate that separates two countries. With COVID-19, thoroughfare is not allowed for now. This is one of the pillars meant to show when Ghana's territorial sovereignty ends with Togo. It is lying on its side across the stream instead of being rooted in the ground. Brigadier General Kotia and his men suspect this may have been caused by erosion or other natural causes. But they want to look further to determine whether or not it was a deliberate attempt by anyone to tamper with the demarcations. One of his men explains.
So, as I was saying, we don't know whether it was through human activity or it was through erosion over the years that the pillar fell. So the exact location of the pillar would have to be determined by the surveyors using their instrument to determine the coordinates. But we pick the current coordinates of where the pillar is lying, and then we'll forward it to them for them to also do the assessment. Then if there's any follow-up survey activities, then we can come back and then confirm the exact locations. Where we are standing in Togolese territory, per the demarcations on the original map of 1972.
A long walk will bring us to another pillar with an inscription to the left, BT, meaning British Togoland, and another to the right, TF, with an arrow in between showing which country owns which side. This is the point of separation of two countries, and without these pillars, each country may lay claim to the entire area, and that can create chaos.
And that one identifies the international boundary line. So it's part of our efforts in conducting an audit so far as the boundaries of our countries are concerned. But the priority we have set for ourselves now is to make an audit of the problem areas before we go into other areas that there are no controversies. That is the reason why we've selected this area as one of the key areas that we have come to do an audit.
Now, there are a lot of questions we need answers to on this. Thankfully, the National Coordinator of Ghana's Boundary Commission, Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia, has joined the show to shed more light. I'm grateful for your time, Brigadier General. And now let's start off with the exercise you did yesterday. What's your assessment of it?
Good morning, and good morning to your discerning viewers. The assessment was excellent. We had initial reports about certain disputed areas, and we've gone to the ground, we've made our own assessments, and we'll come out with an interim report to advise government on the next step. However, we will have a follow-up mapping survey to be done on the ground using a mapping drone to confirm the various points of the pillars that we have identified that separating Ghana from Togo.
In the story we just saw, we realized that you mentioned that you had informed your Togolese counterparts that you were going to do this work along the borders yesterday. But beyond that, what is the relationship between the Togolese counterparts, or let me just put it bluntly, the immigration and boundary commission officials of our neighboring countries?
Very cordial. Indeed, the Togolese have a similar commission in their country. We've had various discussions in Lomé and Ghana, Accra, at various times. We communicate on daily basis, not only Togo. We also communicate with the Ivorian Boundary Commission and the Burkina Faso Boundary Commission. Indeed, there is a network of African boundary commissions, and we are on one platform, and we collaborate and coordinate with each other where there are issues. So we have a very cordial relationship with our counterparts, especially in Togo. And for Togo in particular, yesterday, the Togolese sent a senior officer to meet us, and he went round with us to inspect the pillars. Going forward, the technical teams of both commissions would meet in the various spots which have been identified problem areas to go on. And looking forward, we have jointly identified some spots along our boundary running from the south up to the north. And we are in talks with the Togolese to jointly meet at those places to resolve all the issues that are there.
You highlighted that you were going to do some audit and all, but we want to understand more what your work entails.
Yes, the object of the Ghana Boundary Commission is to determine and demarcate Ghana's land boundaries and delimitate Ghana's maritime boundaries. So it is not only on land. Currently, I will tell you that we are in negotiations with Togo so far as our maritime boundary is concerned. We are also continuing discussions with Côte d'Ivoire so far as the implementation of the ETLOS ruling is concerned. So it is not only on land boundaries, but also maritime boundaries. And the commission is set up in such a way that we have various groupings that are in the commission who have been seconded to the commission with specialized knowledge so far as issues of land and maritime boundary is concerned. We are also to protect and secure the interests of the Republic of Ghana in determining and demarcating land boundaries and delimiting the maritime boundaries. There are a number of functions that we do, but our key function is to negotiate with a neighboring country concerning land or maritime boundary disputes between Ghana and that country.
Okay.
And the emphasis here is to do it amicably and peacefully based on international law.
And do we expect any agreements to be signed, any formalization of the interaction between our boundary commission and that of our neighboring countries?
Yes, there is any time that we meet and there is a requirement for an agreement to be signed, it will be. And let me give you an example. In the negotiation meetings that we've been having with Togo, so far as the maritime boundary is concerned, after every meeting, there is a communique that is signed. So that is an agreement. And at every level where there is the needs, that is done. But I must mention that the Boundary Commission has a board, and the board is made up of sitting statutory ministers on the board, chaired by the Minister of Lands and Natural Resources, and then also representatives from various agencies. We have very good relationship with the various security agencies working at the border, within Ghana. For example, the Ghana Immigration Service, the National Intelligence Agency, and what have you. We have been having very good interaction and collaboration with them.
Brigadier General, the pillars we saw in that story that aired before I started my interaction with you looked quite old. How long have they been there?
Some have been before independence. Some have been after independence in the early 1970s. Now, one of the things that we are doing as a commission is that, and I remember Gifty has given this in his during a story that he gave much earlier, that the commission became very active in the latter part of last year. Yes, so we have a lot in our hands. We're going to. That's why we start an audit of all the pillars. Then we will then decide what we are going to do to be able to change or reinforce these pillars. But the key thing is that we need to do it in collaboration with the neighboring country that is concerned.
So if I get
Burkina Faso along the northern boundaries between Upper East and Upper West, Burkina Faso, with the eastern with Togo, with the western border with La Côte d'Ivoire, and even with the maritime boundaries, we need, if there is any need for us to identify or clearly demarcate, we would have to discuss with the neighboring country concerned. So it's more of an international issue that we tackling, and more of negotiations and more of knowing the techniques of peace and security in handling these issues.
So if I get a sense of what you're saying, improving infrastructure along our borders is part of your mandate?
Yes, in our task, not necessarily improving infrastructure, but the research department can also identify border towns or villages or communities that probably are deprived. We can advise government for some human security or social intervention in that regard if there is a need. Indeed, there are, if you look, we have the African Union Boundary or Borders Commission grouping. Now, we also have an opportunity to access certain fundings through that system. We have an ECOWAS grouping and we have the African Union grouping. And Ghana has signed the Niamey Agreement on the cross-border negotiations with other countries.
All right, so where are you heading next?
We're keeping this close to our chest, but we think that there are a number of issues that are coming. With what Joy FM reported yesterday, we started receiving a lot of calls from regional ministers and districts to come to their areas where they have issues with boundary pillars. We think that we might be heading to the Borno region next, where we have issues around dollar power and some areas, and then next probably the Upper East and Northeast regions. We'll be looking at those areas.
Now, finally, sir, how long do you expect this entire exercise to take?
It may take Auditing, we're hoping that within 2 years, we should finish auditing of trouble spots. And then we can then go into the auditing of other areas that have not been identified as trouble spots. Now, in this regard, we're looking within a 5-year strategic plan or a program that we are going to do this.
And this includes identifying porous borders and dealing with those issues as well?
Not necessarily. They say you need to get an understanding. The Ghana Boundary Commission's mandate is quite different from providing security at the borders. That is purely the work of Ghana Immigration, which is responsible for the security of our land borders. However, we collaborate with them. They give us information when they identify that there are issues with the boundaries. And then they also have an officer seconded to the Boundary Operations Center of the Ghana Boundary Commission.
So will your work be done, this 5-year plan you talk about, auditing and trying to determine what's happening along our borders, will it be done, will the fixing of infrastructure, like the pillar we saw that was down, be done simultaneously, or you have to finish the audit entirely before you begin to look at fixing those pillars and other demarcations?
Not necessarily. We may be doing it simultaneously. Now, what I mentioned was that we're still in talks with the other commissions. For instance, the Ivorians have expressed interest that they want to meet us to discuss issues along the frontier between Ghana and Ivory Coast. Now, when we discuss and we come to an agreement, we will then start doing it. But remember, we do this in collaboration with them, so it is going to be a joint exercise. So the two countries, whichever frontier that we are talking about, would have to discuss and agree on the timings and even the resources for probably building the new place or replacing the new place or those that have actually been destroyed.
At your time this morning, Brigadier General Emmanuel Kotia is the National Coordinator of the Ghana Boundary Commission, and he's just been shedding more light on that program. Thank you, sir, for your time. Away from that, actress Rosemond Brown, also known as Abedi Pele, has regained her freedom, at least temporarily, after she fully satisfied bail conditions set out by the Criminal Division of the Accra High Court. Today, she has one last thing to do, that is to return to the Nsawam prison, sign out, and return home to be with her 7-year-old son. According to her lawyer, Andrew Votia, her client has really grown slim and pale and has been in very low spirits, having spent at least 2 days in jail after she was convicted by the Accra Circuit Court. Kweku Asante joins us via Zoom with more. Hello, Kweku. Did you spot Rosemond Brown? What can you report to us?
Right, Benis, I did see Rosemond Brown right after she had executed her bail condition, walking out of the Accra High Court right to the prison's car that was just parked in front of the court, and she was whisked briskly into the vehicle that was waiting. She was sporting a black skirt and a white T-shirt with a cap on. She looked really slim, just like her lawyer had been saying, and she was not smiling. She had not frowned either. And she looked a bit down in terms of mood. And so she was just straight out put in the vehicle that was waiting before the car was driven off to Nsawam prison, where we are being told she's about to execute the final process of the bill, so that she just go and sign out from Nsawam prison as an inmate and then come home to be with the 7-year-old son. We understand from the lawyer that the 7-year-old son wanted to be at the court but was not brought. And so he is telling me that Abedi Pele is very much looking forward to coming back home to come and meet her son. And we all understand that the son has been at the center of all this, the video and the pictures that she took with the son leading to her incarceration.
And did the lawyer tell you if he had finally opened up to her son about what is really happening? Because earlier he had indicated that he made her son believe that this was all part of a movie.
Right, so that understanding has not come yet. The lawyer is saying that when the actress finally comes back home, having gone to Nsawam prison to sign out, the first thing she'll be doing will be to see her son, and that kind of conversations will be had. But the lawyer was telling me, even before I could record that, he sensed that probably some information has filtered through to the son about the condition of the mother. And just noticed a certain sign of somberness in the boy who is not opening up so much. But that is also one of the things that is going on currently. But Agyapa Polo is very much looking forward to return home, either first from prison to come and see the son, or secondly, from the decoy that was created by the lawyer that she had gone on to act.
Kweku, for those of us who've not been keenly following the story, help us understand. She got her bail earlier this week. Why has it taken about 3 days before she's been allowed to go home?
Right, Benny. So on Tuesday, the criminal division of the Accra High Court granted Agyapa Polo bail to the tune of 80,000 Ghana cedis, the two sureties to be justified by the court. According to the lawyer, they were working that very same day to execute the bail and ensure that all the conditions are met. But to his surprise, this is the lawyer telling me, that very day, the client was transferred from those two police stations to the Nsawam prison. And so that meant another dimension to the case. And so the lawyer now had to go to Nsawam prison to try and execute the bail from there. And he said that process was a bit tedious and it was a bit frustrating. He tells me that was the most difficult bail he's had to execute in his practice as a lawyer. And so when they went there, a lot of bureaucratic processes, go and sign from this office, you go to this other office. And so it took some time. And yesterday, they almost completed the process, but it was almost 4 p.m. when the prison's official working hours had come to an end. And even if they were able to do so, it was going to be difficult to bring her back to Accra, to come to the High Court, to now come and officially execute the bond. And so they had to send this process to this morning, where she was able to return to the High Court and be able to sign the bail.
So, Kweku, we know that this bail is pending the appeal of the earlier sentence, which was given by an Accra Circuit Court. Do we know if processes for the appeal proper have begun?
Right. The lawyer, Andrew Votia, tells me that as for he and his law firm, they've done their part in terms of sending all their documents to court, writing the cases in favor of this application that they've made. They've also served the Attorney General. And so it's up to the Attorney General's office to now also write either in opposition or in agreement, whatever the process will be, before the court will set a date proper for arguments to start. And so for them, they have filed all the legal documents that they must file as of today, and they are waiting for the Attorney General to do so for the process to move forward. They are telling me that they are very much ready. They believe that they have a solid case to be able to make to the court to justify why they say that 90 days for the crimes or for the offenses she was convicted on were too harsh.
We'll leave it here. That's my colleague Kweku Asante coming to us from the court where actress Rosemond Brown, also known as Agyapa Polo, has regained her freedom, though temporarily, after satisfying bail conditions. Away from that, government must abandon its agenda to build 111 hospitals across the country and use the money instead to restructure the National Health Insurance Scheme. That's according to senior lecturer at the Department of Public Administration and Health Services Management at the University of Ghana, Dr. Gordon Abekankrumah. Now, the NPP's 2020 manifesto commits to construct 111 hospitals across the country. The projects are yet to start. But speaking at a post-election policy dialogue with the media organized by the Center for Democratic Governance as part of its project to track the implementation of manifesto promises, Dr. Abekankrumah said that promise is not feasible. Head of our political desk, Evans Mensah, was at the event and reports how civil society group Africa Education Watch also pushed for the establishment of a regulator to police the activities of the West Africa Examination Council to prevent it from investigating itself in the event of another exam leakage.
This was definitely a first step in not only assessing the manifestos, but also tracking the implementation of the many policies that the NPP made in its 2020 manifesto. It was based on the document that you voted for them. CDD is taking the lead in scrutinizing the post-election document and how the government, having won power, is faring with this. The assessment was broad and it focused both on health but also on education. It is in this sector of education where the fascinating proposal by Kofi Asare of the Africa Education Ward emerged as one of those areas to watch. His point is that WAEC, and we've seen many instances where examinations have become fraught with leakages and questions over the validity of certificates. He says it is time for a regulator to be established by government to police the activities of WAEC.
In Ghana, WAEC is an INGO, an intergovernmental organization owned by 5 countries: Ghana, Liberia, Sierra Leone, Gambia, Nigeria. WAEC in Ghana has no regulatory agency that sets standards, enforces standards, ensures compliance, sanctions non-compliance. So WAEC in itself is the referee and the player and the coach. So anytime a malpractice happens in Ghana, WAEC investigates itself, and they are hardly guilty. If a malpractice happens in the UK, Ofquam will be the investigator, not Cambridge, not Oxford. So when you have a system like ours, it defies the very principle of accountability, because WAEC is accountable to no one.
Also at this event was Dr. Abeka Nkrumah of the University of Ghana, and a health expert analyzing the issues relating to the key policies proposed in the MPP 2020 manifesto when it came to the area of health. He was very critical of government's promise back then to roll out a policy of investing in 111 hospitals across the country. His point is that it's not feasible. He was emphatic, we simply do not have the resources to execute this policy agenda.
I think that this wholesale 111 is not needed, and the amount of money that is needed to do this, I believe that that money can be invested into the NHIS to restructure it and make sure that people can have access to service. Else, what is going to happen is that we would have buildings all over the place, which at the end of the day do not actually provide services.
Of course, here at JoyNews, we had partner CDD and other civil society groups to bring you the Manifesto tracker. And that is what we'll be continuing. Of course, now that the government is in power, we'll be analyzing the document based on which you voted for them, together with our civil society friends. And today's event is just one of many along the way. We'll be tracking the promises they make to you. How are they being implemented? Are they working for you, for those being implemented? And what changes needed to be made for those areas where we discover that although has been promised, implementation is a challenge, and the initial idea will have to be tweaked. For JoyNews, my name is Evan Spencer.
Now, some civil society organizations that kicked against the Agyapa mineral royalties agreement and forced government to abandon it say they are hopeful government would revise its approach when it represents the deal. Key amongst the expectations is that government will get the buy-in of citizens. President Akufo-Addo, in his State of the Nation address, told Parliament the transaction will be tabled again for consideration. Dr. Steve Mantiao, a member of the Civil Society Alliance Against Agyapa, in his assessment of why the deal stalled the first time, explained government wasn't proactive when its engagement of public and other key stakeholders. JoyNews editor Olai engaged Dr. Mantiao and another member of the CSO Alliance, Nafi Chinri, of the Natural Resource Governance Institute at a Star Ghana Foundation workshop here in Accra.
You find that some of the promises that the government has made in terms of value addition opportunities are not supported by the Mineral Income Investment Fund Act. For instance, government has said that they are going to invest some of the proceeds in value addition, that is gold refinery and all that. In the same breath, under the stability provisions of the Minerals Income Investment Fund Act, the government says that when the act comes into force, it shall be bound to take mineral royalty in the form it has always taken it, which is in cash. So which means you're not going to have even access to the raw material gold to add value to it. So all these things put together amounts to a certain breach of faith. For want of a better word, I would say breach of faith, because I was tempted to say deceit of the citizenry, which undermines public trust and faith in what government is attempting to do.
Right, and talking about this same trust, you also indicated that there was a lack of trust as a result of the way the issue of Agyapa came into the public domain.
Exactly, because you know, the whole thing came into the public domain as a result of disagreement between the minority and the majority party. Government hadn't been proactive as it was at the time when we were enacting the Petroleum Revenue Management Act, where government went out of its way to hold regional consultations with the people. And then this culminated in the national conversation and a consensus, which was reflected in the final bill that became the law. And so when it came to implementation, we had no resistance. On this occasion, government did not do any consultations at all. It attempted to use its majority in parliament to bulldoze its way through parliament and get all the approvals it needed to be able to execute the deal. And therefore, under this principal-agent relationship, the citizens had no option than to rise up and speak out against the attempt by government to use these numbers to get this deal through.
Now, Nafi Chinri, you belong to the Civil Society Alliance Against Agyapa. A lot has been said, and you have made requests on government to provide information. As far as the Agyapa agreement is concerned, a lot has been said over the period. Would you now say that you have the information that you require?
The President had hinted that he is going to present Agyapa back to Parliament. We don't know in what form, whether it's been reviewed. We don't have that information and we don't have that document. I think the President and the entire country has a fine opportunity, particularly the President and the Ministry of Finance, to engage all interested parties, particularly the civil society group that raised a number of concerns in 3 media encounters, you know, to have a conversation around the issues. We need to know whether issues that were raised have actually been factored into a restructured Agyapa that will be going back to Parliament. And if there are gaps, you know, we can have another conversation to review and make proposal on what will be best for the country. So I think that at this moment, we haven't seen what will be sent to Parliament. And I think that in terms of strategy, it's not good to rush to Parliament without actually having a conversation with the public. You know, let's build consensus on what will be sent to Parliament before it goes to Parliament. That way you can guarantee that you can have some smoothness in terms of approval of the conversation. But at this particular moment,
you're watching News Desk with me, Bernice Abubedulansa. We'll bring you business news right after these messages.
Hello, welcome to Business. My name is Daryl Kwao. Over 1,000 stores have been activated at the racecourse market to accommodate traders being relocated for the construction of the second phase of the Kejitia redevelopment project. Traders paid 3,000 cedis to build temporary containers on the land allocated to them by the Kumasi Metropolitan Assembly. Here's more in this report.
Leader of the affected traders, Isaac Amunti, says most members are currently at home, whilst others are plying their trade on pavement. This has affected their economic livelihoods. A month ago, some traders at the central market were relocated to satellite markets in the metropolis, including the racecourse market. Affected traders were given space to rebuild over 1,000 shops to start their businesses. Isaac Amunti says the current unstable power supply is delaying their project.
We have currently constructed 1,000 structures. We are waiting for the traders to come occupy these structures. We thank the mayor for helping us to acquire this place. Each of the traders paid 3,000 cedis for the construction. If not for the power outages, this project would have been completed by the end of May.
Some of the traders called on the KMA to help provide good roads, security and fire stations at the market.
We plead with the mayor to construct the road. We need him to beef up security in the area to prevent any crime. We also need the fire service to prevent fire outbreak.
Public Relations Officer Efiakunedwa Boaji spoke to JoyNews.
We've been informed by the Chief Executive that he's in constant talk with the Minister of Road to be able to get some 2-kilometer stretch of road from the 100-kilometer earmark for the Kumasi metropolis, so that the racecourse market, the stretch there, can be dealt with, and that of Nanefia Kobe market. Every market in the Kumasi metropolis has a security of volunteers within the market, and there are already some there who have been taking care of the others who are trading there. We'll increase it as they get settled in, and then we are also in talk with the police. They give us patrol team who goes there every now and then to see how the place is. The racecourse market is just 10 minutes away from the Confanoche, where there's a Ghana National Fire Service tender station there, and they'll get there in no time. However, if they insist that they need a fire tender, they will have to let the authorities know, and then the Ghana National Fire Service know how the procedure is to get a station at that particular place, and then we'll follow due process to get them one day. But for now, it's just 10 minutes away from where the current one is just 10 minutes away from them.
In other news, the Dawa Industrial City, an initiative of the Dawa Industrial Zone Limited and a wholly owned subsidiary of LMI Holdings, has introduced a new flagship project and resilient infrastructure support for industries. Now, speaking to Joy Business, the business development manager, Uriel Makwe, said his outfit aims to support and contribute to Ghana's industrialization agenda. There's more in this report.
The Dawa Industrial City is a flagship project to host light and heavy industries across various sectors. Speaking to Joy Business, the business development manager Uriel Makwe said his outfit has zoned the city to contribute and support Ghana's industrialization agenda. According to him, the resilient infrastructure is aimed at supporting all forms of businesses. Mr. Makwe also assured investors, both in and outside of Ghana, quality amenities for industries that operate in the enclave.
The Dawa Industrial Zone is supposed to be a 22,000-acre industrial city, what we call the new Tema. But we are starting with the 2,000 acres here. Currently, we have 6 clients who are here. And the vision is to populate Dawa just like we've done for Tema free zones. The advantages here are enormous for the country in terms of infrastructure development and attracting FDIs into the economy. Dawa directly is supposed to create jobs around 80,000. Indirectly is supposed to also provide job avenues for up to 250,000 job employment. So in terms of the advantage to Ghana and in the sub-region, it is enormous.
Meanwhile, the senior engineer of Enclave Power Company, Solomon Akandi Atule, said his outfit would deliver power to customers at 99.9% reliability because of the connection to a reliable network.
In Dawa, we receive power from Gridco at 330 kV, and we do our distribution at 34.5 kV for industrial and commercial customers that are sited in the industrial enclave. We are able to deliver power to our customers at 99.9% reliability. We are able to do this because we have a resident maintenance and operating team that work 24/7 to attend to customer faults and faults on our system. We are able to also do that because we are connected to a reliable network, which is the West African Power Pool Network.
Its own power substation, fiber broadband, data facilities, plant solar and water treatment projects, the park has unique benefits.
And that's all in business. You know where to go for the latest business news. That's myjoyonline.com/business. Tech Talk is up next with Sparky.
I'm grateful that you could stay. Two big issues to discuss in sports today. The first one is roundabout nothing right here in Ghana, and the second will be the Carabao Cup final, which is expected on Sunday between Spurs and Manchester United. Well, Manchester City, I beg your pardon. Nabila is here with me to talk about that. Let's start off roundabout nothing. So we started showing that documentary today, or feature today. Tell us more about it.
Well, it's actually a work put together by the Joy Sports team. And if you look across the country, Abedi Pele is one of the few players who have contributed massively to the Ghanaian society. He's been a mentor for so many people. And there's only one monument that has been put up by the people of Tamale Metro in his honor. However, that runabout has deteriorated to the extent that the people of Tamale feel so disappointed that he and his children have not done anything to ensure that the place is in good shape. If you have such a monument in your name, they think that you should play a role in ensuring that it is in good state, and they are very unhappy about the current state of that runabout.
It's interesting, that kind of thinking. I remember earlier discussing with George about why somebody who has contributed so much to the development of football in this country would again have to make it his burden to take care of a monument that has been named after him.
It is understandable when such questions are asked, but you also need to look at it from the perspective of the people. They feel that if something is in your name, if that thing is in good shape, then it is your image that it is there to project. If it is in bad state and they mention your name, Abedi Pele, and associate it to that monument, you wouldn't be happy. That is clearly what it is. Let's not forget, when the Azuma Nelson Youth Resource Center was in a very bad state, Azuma Nelson said, don't name this after me anymore.
Okay. But it wasn't his responsibility.
It wasn't his responsibility
anyway, because that's what I want us to talk about. Do we have a response from the sports authority, government, the municipal chief executive, or anybody on why they've left the
municipality? They have actually spoken. For them, they can clearly understand why the runabout is in the state it is, and they would like Abedi to come and help them put it in a good shape.
Anyway,
difficult to understand and appreciate.
It's difficult to understand, but it's fine because he put Ghana on the map. He's the reason a lot of people follow Ghana football, whether we like it or not.